This is the worst Battlefield launch that I have
DICE
ever
and
been
EA
through.
do not deserve you as a player. They do not deserve your money.
Battlefield 6 had the biggest launch in franchise history.
In just 1 hour, the game peaked at over 700,000 concurrent players.
DICE. We can't keep meeting like this. How many times are you going to destroy a franchise just to rise it from the ashes better than ever? I mean, first it was Battlefront 2 from its launch day disaster into what it eventually became, and now from Battlefield 2042 into Battlefield 6. But seriously, Battlefield 6 is fantastic. It's fast, chaotic, creative, and I mean, it's no surprise that it's the most successful launch in Battlefield history. It had 7 million copies sold, 172 million matches played, and 15 million hours of streams watched in its first 3 days alone. That dwarfs what 2042 put up, selling around 4.3 million in a week and losing 90% of its players shortly after. How does such a turnaround happen? How does a franchise come back from such lows? While it might seem as simple as Battlefield 6 is good and therefore has performed well, there's gotta be more to it. The timing of its release, the current climate of gaming, and expert marketing all have to play a role in Battlefield's success, right? I mean, the game has put up some insane numbers, and I personally have been playing it non-stop. But to fully appreciate its success and how drastic of a turnaround this is for the Battlefield franchise, we have to look at the disappointment it followed. 4 years ago, DICE released Battlefield 2042, a game meant to revolutionize the franchise, literally pushing it into the future, and it failed spectacularly. At launch, it was an unplayable mess, riddled with game-breaking bugs, crashes, and a host of incomplete and outright missing features. Even if you were lucky enough and actually got into a match, it barely felt like Battlefield. The iconic 4-class system that defines Battlefield gameplay across the franchise was completely absent in Battlefield 2042. It was instead replaced by 10 specialists, each with unique gadgets. And while the specialists were kind of interesting on their own, the lack of Battlefield's classic 4 defined roles pretty much killed the team-based gameplay that Battlefield is known for. And if you're unfamiliar, Battlefield is known for having 4 classes, each specializing in a specific role. You have your Assault, which is great at putting pressure on and capturing objectives. Then you have your Engineer, which specializes in both repairing and destroying vehicles, followed by a Support/Medic class, which can supply allies with ammo, health, and revive wounded friendlies. And lastly, there's a Recon, or sometimes it's called the Scout class, which is in charge of spotting enemies for allies and excels at taking out targets from afar. Each of these classes are in every mainline Battlefield game, except for Battlefield 2042. So hopefully that explains why this change was so controversial when Battlefield 2042 released. Because instead of Battlefield's usual coordinated squads that kind of push players to work as a team, Battlefield 2042's specialists made most matches feel like any generic FPS where everyone's fighting solo. Anyways, on top of the franchise-breaking decision to remove classes, and on top of the multiple crashes and bugs the game released with, Battlefield 2042 was also missing a bunch of features that were present in previous titles. The game released with no single-player story or any kind of campaign mode, no individual player scoreboard, no option to create a new squad, no vehicle damage points, no option to switch squads, fewer destructible buildings, fewer urban areas, a bunch of quality of life downgrades, and a long list of other missing features. 3 months after the game was released, there still wasn't an in-game scoreboard. That's how much was missing from this game and how obviously rushed its release was. Now, of course, this game's development was stunted by the chaos of 2020, but that's an excuse to delay a game, not an excuse to release one at full price in this broken of a state. A state so bad that it was no surprise to anyone when the backlash to this game's release was monumental. In just 2 weeks after Battlefield 2042's release, it had amassed over 33,000 negative reviews on Steam, had received scathing reviews from critics, with some aptly calling it the weakest first-person shooter in the history of DICE. 3 months after the game's release, and it was no better. It was still in a very buggy state, and worst of all, it had less than 5,000 players on Steam playing on any given day. A far cry from its initial 100,000. Now, to put those numbers in comparison, at the same time, 3 months after Battlefield 2042 released, Battlefield 1, which had released 5 years prior, had more than double the player count at over 10,000 players. Battlefield 5 had almost 30,000. Also at this time, a petition that was started demanding refunds for the game had over 160,000 signatures and would go on to amass over 200,000. Now, I remember all of this. I got the game as a gift when it released and played it for less than 20 hours before heading to GameStop and getting $14 store credit. A trade that felt more than fair for how awfully it played. Battlefield 2042 didn't just fail on its own. It almost destroyed the Battlefield franchise, as it left fans like me frustrated and became yet another example of a rushed, unfinished launch from EA. That all happened 4 years ago, and since then, Battlefield has been a punchline, a franchise now synonymous with one of the worst launches in gaming, a poster child for EA's greed and short-sightedness. When Battlefield 2042 released, for a moment, felt like the end of Battlefield as a whole. Battlefield is back. It's here. It's breaking records. It's delivering on everything fans love, and the franchise seems to have recovered overnight. I'm happy, you're happy, DICE is happy, even Mr. Krabs EA gets to pat himself on the back for this insane franchise turnaround. Battlefield 6 has achieved what seemed impossible just a few years ago. How? What makes this game so special, and why is it performing better than any other game in the series? Well, for starters, it really is a complete return to form. Everything that made the original Battlefield succeed is here. It's got modern-day weapons, battlefields, and vehicles, urban maps, unique gadgets, and a really, really well-done execution of the classic 4-class system fans love. After years of Battlefield disappointment, this is the fix addicts like me needed. Fans like me who had given up hope on ever seeing a good Battlefield again. And it's a huge reason behind Battlefield's record-breaking return. It also helps that Battlefield 6 launched at a time when its competitors are losing fans left and right. There just aren't many shooters out there that offer what Battlefield 6 has brought to the table. Call of Duty is in shambles, struggling to find its identity, and most other major shooters have gone all in on tactical, realistic military gameplay, which is great for fans of those titles. But it does leave a massive gap in the market for the kind of fast-paced, all-out, constant AAA chaos that Battlefield does best. This opening in the FPS market is exactly what Battlefield 6 has capitalized on. It's very obvious in their marketing that they're gunning for COD's fanbase that's been widely ignored and extorted year after year by COD's increasingly noticeable dip in quality. Battlefield 6's trailers have made it clear that, at least for now, this is not the game for out-of-place skins, emotes, celebrations, or anything else that follows the Fortnite-ification of the FPS genre. It's delivering exactly what it promised. Large-scale, chaotic warfare that's fast enough for casual players and serious enough for fans of military first-person shooters. Personally, while I am cautious knowing this could all change at any second, this is an EA game we're talking about. But in its current state, how it released, I am loving this new rendition of the Battlefield franchise. I have over 30 hours played, many more to go, and to me, this game has it all. Now, I will say I've yet to play the single-player campaign, and while I hear it is rather short and leaves a lot to be desired, for me, the multiplayer has knocked it out of the park with its quality. But it's not just me who's enjoying the game. Compared to Battlefield 2042's all-time PC high of around 107,000 players, Battlefield 6 launched with nearly 750,000 players on Steam alone, with around 400,000 players at any given moment. And besides a simple Steam player count comparison, reviews across the board for Battlefield 6 are very positive, and it's a stark difference compared to the harsh criticisms Battlefield 2042 faced. And As of this video's release, Battlefield 6 will have just launched a massive update, adding a ton of content in the game just 2 weeks after its release. All that to say, for a franchise that has spanned over 2 decades, 100 million players, and 5 billion hours played, Battlefield 6 has, by all definitions, redeemed the series. Just like a great support, Battlefield 6 drugged the wounded franchise to safety, sent it back into the fight stronger than ever. So, what are your thoughts on Battlefield's newest game? Have you played it? Are you enjoying the game so far? If you've played the single player campaign, let me know what you thought. I'm about to start playing it myself, so I'd love to know what y'all think. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like or even subscribing, and I'll see you next time.